like and subscribe. Parents of terrible people. What was the moment that you realized your child wasn't going to be a good person? My aunt has a terrible child. We all knew from the start that he was a bad seed, except for her. That was her baby and he didn't need to see a therapist or get on medication. Starting around 4/5, he would torture animals. His favorite was kittens. My aunt would not get her cat fixed, so the cat kept having kittens. My cousin would torture all of them. The things he did to them is horrifying. I won't post details, because it will make you sick. When he was around 11 he would chase me around with a butcher knife, and talk about how he wanted to slice open my stomach. The torturing of animals never stopped. My aunt never sought help for him. My aunt bought some chickens one day, to raise and get their eggs. He eventually killed them, and laid their heads on his sister's pillow, that spelled out the first initial of her name. All because she wouldn't buy him, a minor, cigarettes. He is in his mid-20s now, and is constantly in and out of jail. My aunt doesn't believe in medication for mental health, nor does she believe in psychiatrists. She thinks that, because she is his mother, she can solve his issues. My mom and I are afraid he is going to kill her one day. Edit, I'm not sure if he suffered from any sort of trauma as a baby or toddler. My parents think I'm a good person, and so do I, but definitely my dad took me aside before 8th grade, and handed me a pamphlet that said how to stop being a bully. My son isn't a terrible person. He's an awesome person. But it could have gone the other way. He has, or had, something more or less in the vein of oppositional defiant disorder. In real terms, the guts of it was that he could not accept that he was limited in any way. I mean, I'm talking even natural order of things limitations. Not jump off the roof thinking he could fly, but not too far off. He was seemingly trans for a year or so, not because he actually had a female gender identity, but because he would not accept that he had to be limited to being a boy. This is reconstruction in retrospect. At the time I believed he was trans, and got trans specialists on board, and treated him as such. And the way it resolved is not at all the normal presentation of childhood trans. His wanting to be a girl, or not wanting to be a boy, had been acutely distressing and traumatic for him, but the whole thing pretty much resolved as soon as we accepted it as the new normal and accommodated it. Because it wasn't about being a girl, it was about being limited. He didn't trust our guidance. Everything we said was just to hold him down and hold him back. So he learned everything the hard way. He was charming enough to be liked by his teachers and others, but always in all sorts of new and exotic types of trouble they'd never seen before. He damn near got himself killed more than once. He could be loving and funny with me. We had a up wicked sense of humor together, but he could also turn deeply hostile with incidents that were basically attempts at assault and deliberate malicious attacks on my property. His emotional intelligence was very low. Empathy wasn't completely absent, but he was chronically oblivious to the reactions of others and any connection that might exist between how he acted and how others felt. He had a cold sort of logic that could be quite chilling at times. Real sociopath in the making stuff. One after another, psychologists/psychiatrists/others went through assuming he was just this way because I was young and poor and didn't know how to handle him, then watched him and us and agreed there actually was a problem, then pronounced themselves mystified about what it was and what to do about it. His school paid for him to go to a psychologist of their choosing too. Same result. He was assessed at a specialist child psychiatric unit, who came up with a list of things it could have been but wasn't, but nothing that it was. It became clear there was not going to be the kind of help that told us what the problem was, and had a plan to fix it. All I could do was keep working with what was in front of me on any given day. He went to counseling after school at the local hospital several times a week to deconstruct and reconstruct his interpretation of his daily life. Basically, informal cognitive behavioral therapy. I would talk him through social situations, over and over again, with the help of patient young friends. What does her face look like? What do you think that means about how she feels about what you're saying? Why do you think she felt that way? I talked to him about mindfulness, about questioning the judgments his mind was leading him to, and questioning them again. We did natural consequences for the anger outbursts, and destroyed property and all that. I occasionally did pretty things because I was getting desperate, and didn't know what else to do for him. At the height of the destruction and zero empathy stage, I cut up a love toy in front of him, and told him that what he was feeling was what he was making me feel when he deliberately destroyed things of mine. That did put an end to destroying my things, and was the start of him grasping empathy as a concept, when nothing else did. No one really knew what they were doing, me or the professionals either. We just kept slogging through it. We did this for years. And somewhere along the line, somehow, it got better. He switched to destroying his own property when he was angry, and then stopped destroying it altogether. He learned to manage his anger, more or less, at least to within normal kid limits. He learned to filter his reactions through rationality. He learned to interpret and analyze. He became more aware of himself and others, and developed empathy. He's still a bit of an odd duck. He's still insanely stubborn. He still needs to school his anger. But he's learned to self-regulate enough that he can be a decent person and have genuinely good relationships, and for a long time I wasn't sure either of those things would be possible for him. He's also very smart and self-aware and thoughtful. He reflects a lot on his life and what happens in it, in his own mind and to me. He's very charming and charismatic and very well loved by the people around him, most of whom have no clue what he was like in that period of say 5 to 13 years. We moved cities just as he was coming good, so he got a fresh start. He grapples with ethical questions, loyalty questions, value questions, decent person questions I had believed might always elude him. He's in his 20s now, and he's the love of my life. He's a genuinely awesome person. But he very nearly wasn't. Edit, ***, thank you all for the kind words. I'm his mother, not his father, but no harm taken either way. After all, I didn't specify. I won't be replying directly to everyone, although I might answer a couple of questions raised. And it was really interesting to hear from a couple of people who had experiences similar to my son's. It's comforting, in a way, to know someone somewhere has been there too. She started acting out when she was about 12 and got worse and worse. We did all kinds of therapy, private schools, rehabs. We tried everything. Her dad, her stepdad, and all of her grandparents were on board with me trying to help her. But we couldn't keep her from sneaking out and getting in trouble unless we were willing to have someone up and watching her 24/7. It was exhausting. She's now just turned 28. I haven't spoken to her in about 6 months. She never changed. You can't trust her to have a visit because she will steal from you. I think when I realized that she was never going to change was when I bought her a plane ticket to help me move into my new place shortly after the death of her stepfather, and she couldn't be bothered to stop partying long enough to get on a plane. This was the last time I tried hard to be close with her. She was about 22 when this happened. It's the great tragedy of my existence. She's my only biological child, and when people ask me if I have kids I lie and say no, because thinking of her makes me want to die of shame. I can kind of speak on this as my mom had me at a young age, and waited until I was older to have more children. My brother was always troubled as a kid. He would beat up my other siblings, he would lie to therapists, and manipulate my mother. He got heavily involved in gangs when he was 14, and is now 17 serving a 3-year sentence for possession of drugs and firearms. I've always expected this is how it would go down. We always tried to help him, and he would always be resistant. He was in a fantastic camp for troubled teens, where he was put in charge of the kitchen, and got good grades in his classes, and over a period of 2 months ran away, and was on the run until recently being found in a gang's car, with drugs and guns. I think everyone's different, but it was obvious from the start with my little brother. I actually just watched a TED Talk that the mother of one of the Columbine shooters did regarding this. It was Dylan's mom. If you type in his name and TED it will probably come up easily. It's really interesting. I'd link it, but too lazy to find it again. My parents probably thought I was going to be a terrible person. I bit myself, blamed my brother. I was manipulative, lied constantly, and by kindergarten, my only ambition was to marry rich. I screamed so loudly the neighbors thought I was being abused whenever I didn't get my way. The one time my mom spanked me, and rightfully so, I threatened to call the police. I made her cry. More than once. My brother was afraid of me. My parents didn't know what to do with me. They likely thought I was going to grow up and be a serial killer. But then I hit an all-time low. Childhood onset major depressive episode coupled with crippling anxiety. A rescue dog who helped me out of it, along with an amazing therapist. And I turned a corner. By late middle school I was just a weird, awkward young teenager. I liked Death Note, Hot Topic, and being random. By high school I was ambitious, had amazing grades, and a solid group of friends. Still a little weird, but I grew out of it by the time I went to college. In college I laid low. Dated, had friends, tried to get through it. Now I'm a successful young adult. I'm happy. I volunteer. I work hard, and get along well with my parents. My parents thought they were raising a terrible person, I'm sure of it. But as an adult, I have to say, they did a damn good job. I imagine that actual terrible people come about one of two ways. The first is the opposite of myself. They are perfectly fine children, who somehow just turn out bad. No reason for it, they just do. The second is they start out bad, like I did, but their parents, teachers, etc. give up on them. They don't get the help they need. They don't get the support. Just my 2 cents as a former terrible person. I don't have high expectations of the US justice system, but did the police never send him to any kind of psychiatrist? This is textbook psychopath behavior. Here in the Netherlands these kinds of people get terbeschikkingstelling, TBS, involuntary commitment. Ah, such a lovely language. You know you can do something about this person. At the very least get him for animal cruelty. I remember reading about a psychiatrist talking about his first problem child with normal parents. You can do everything right and still end up with a kid who tortures small animals and sets things on fire. Life is cruel. I'm thankful for your parents. I wish someone did this for the kids that chose to bully me in 8th grade. Long, but I read every word. May I say how reasoned, fair and apparently insightful your story is. You sound like a mother who, with no expert advice, never gave up. You tried to think it out for yourself, and for your son, and you got there in the end. Congratulations to you. Your son has an awesome mother. Met her again for the first time in like 15 years, after we happened to live in the same city. First thing she did was insult me. Like 10 times, then berate me for not wanting her friendship. I have to admit that I'm really curious about how you handled this as an adult. That's exactly the parent I want to hear from. I'm not a parent, but I'm 100% sure my little brother is going to grow up to be a rapist or abuser, or is going to murder his wife someday. I can see it in the way he treats girls. He's only 9, but he talks down to me and my mother as if we know nothing, and he's constantly going on about how girls have it easy and should just stay home and take care of their kids because my mother has to work to support us. He says they are stupider and freaks out if any girl does something he doesn't like, his peers included. He's also been abusive towards our pets and has gotten suspended from school too many times to count since the time he was in preschool. He's been kicked out of 2 schools so far for getting into fights with people. Don't worry, I do not tolerate the abusiveness towards the pets. I would rather push him and get grounded for 2 weeks than let the dog be kicked. The Onioness Knight is right. Parents don't realize they're raising terrible people. My mother insists that he's a good kid and just needs a little extra help with some things. He is horrible, but she doesn't see it. She babies him, I personally think, because he was born dead and revived, so she has more sympathy for him. She only pays attention to whichever one of her kids she thinks needs the attention, and ignores the other. Don't get me wrong, I'm not an angel. I can often be really mean, and I have a short temper. But I've never seen a child as evil as the 9-year-old that lives in my home. Many other people have said the same things about him to me, but my mother just is either incredibly dense, or pretends it isn't there. Edit. Thank all of you that responded. I really enjoyed getting this off my chest. Your good luck, advice and well wishes all mean a lot to me. And I even appreciate the comments calling me a sociopath and a liar, even though I think you're being rude. Unfortunately it is 3:30 in the morning and I've got a raging headache, so I'm going to sleep. But know that I'll probably look back on all these comments again once I'm awake, and they'll make me smile again.